knowledge and so much experience now after so many months with living with COVID-19. Why are the numbers going up instead of down?
Well, it's not a priority for Washington, for the Trump administration. Right now, they're more focused on trying to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the Supreme Court with Amy Coney. So that's a big political showdown. And this tragedy is not just a medical tragedy, it's a social and socioeconomic tragedy. 23 million Americans don't have enough food as a result of this crisis and an ongoing economic crisis. We're talking about 1.5 million new unemployed Americans just this week, which is on top of how many tens of millions of Americans who've lost their jobs, which is on top of how many Americans were chronically unemployed and underemployed way before this pandemic. 1 in 4 renters can no longer pay their rent because of the economic crisis, and they're facing eviction. So this is much more than just a medical crisis. It's a socioeconomic crisis.
And Danny, why do you think so many Americans are jumping on this bandwagon where they look at the government telling them and science and medical experts telling them to wear masks and do this and not do this and not go to places in numbers? They see it as government's overreach. Why?
Oh, that goes deep into the psyche of us Americans and how many years we've been indoctrinated with American exceptionalism, with individual liberties, not thinking of the collective. And when you begin to compare a country like Nicaragua, which has only had 5,000 total cases, or a country like Cuba, which has a similar number, and you compare those socioeconomic systems which have been based on the collective, on the communal, they've had an incredible amount of success, even though the capitalist press would never utter a positive word about Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Vietnam, or China. In fact, they do the exact opposite, of course. Xenophobia is at an all-time high. There's a new Cold War against China. So what we see really is a crisis in this nation's priorities. Trump always has more funding for the police, for the military, for the Pentagon, for sanctions, for blockades, but when it comes to our everyday health, that's not their priority.
And Colin, I'm sure you noticed that too, that the whole me against the government thing is really hurting America in the face of COVID-19.
Well, yes, and we have to remember that this is a president who always needs a boogeyman. It's always him against whatever it is. And in this case, because it's highly politicized, this is being framed as leftist liberals trying to make him look bad, which is why they all wear masks, which is why they want to say practice social distancing, which is why they're saying that businesses shouldn't be as robust as they need to be, because he is framing it to his constituents, to his very subordinate followers, that it's the leftist liberal Democrats who want to upend America, turn it into a socialist country and eschew a capitalist economy to make him look bad so he doesn't get reelected. And there are a lot of his followers who believe that. They're not looking at the science. They're not looking at the people who have researched this for years, the virologists who have degrees, advanced degrees in understanding this type of situation with viruses. They're only looking at it in a political spectrum and saying, well, this is our president who we really want to see reelected, that we really support. And everyone else, no matter what their pedigree is only out to vilify our president. And so therefore, they are our enemy, and it's us versus them. And for that case, we don't care about wearing masks, and we don't care about following any rules that these health officials are saying, because they're only out to make our president look bad. And who does get affected the most? People in black communities, in brown communities. These are the people who still have to go to work to pay their bills, who are face to face with people who may not wear the masks, who may not practice social distancing, and they still have to go to work every day, and they're the ones who are being exposed. Not the president, who makes sure that everyone around him gets tested. These are the people who have to be face to face with the general public every day, whether they get tested or not, whether they're wearing masks or not, and this puts them at risk. This is happening to the people in not only lower socioeconomic brackets, but people who are considered Black Americans in this country, people who are considered brown Americans in this country.
Or even poor white Americans. Let's not leave them out. They're catching the blues too. It's basically, if you don't have the means, you're really going to catch the blues with this, with respect to this disease. And Danny, we've got about a minute left. Your final thoughts, please.
Well, it's not just the coronavirus pandemic. There's this pandemic of police brutality against Black America, against poor America. Breonna Taylor, 32, shot through her home as she sleeps. She's murdered. She's murdered by these invading police officers, and not one police officer faces a day in court or a day in jail for these horrific racist crimes. Police brutality is a horrific pandemic in this country. So November 3rd is really a showdown. There's a lot of debate about whether a vote for Biden is really going to change anything, but before fascism, a lot of people are saying that an anti-Trump vote is an anti-fascist vote. So we'll see how it plays out in the next 5 weeks.
All right, gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. Colin Campbell out of Washington, D.C., and Danny Shaw there joining us from New York. And viewers, that's a wrap for this segment of your Press TV's News Review. Thank you for tuning in, and goodbye for now.